Hey folks, Chair here on the 29th of August with your Leeds news. No point in doing headlines or an intro because everything's going to change rapidly, very quickly today. So just going to crack on through this. We'll get through it as quick as we can. We'll start off with Djed Spence, and according to pretty much everyone, after a massive day of speculation yesterday, Fabrizio Romano, Phil Hay and Ben Jacobs have all confirmed that Leeds and Spurs have agreed a one-season loan deal for Djed Spence to join Leeds. The right-back will join on a one-year loan deal with no option to buy. Spurs will receive £1 million loan fee up front for the player. Spence is now Leeds' sixth signing of this summer. It adds a player in a right-back position that's pretty well stacked, but that could mean we could see the outgoing of either Cody Drame or a swap around the right-back position with Luke Ayling there as well. Also should be stated for everyone who claims that Luke Ayling can't defend, he is the fourth most tackles won in the division this year so far, so it's the life in the old dog just yet. Let's move on and talk about the... that's a great deal. It's brilliant. Djed Spence coming in is a fantastic deal. It's good timing as well. Do we need right backs? I don't necessarily know, but he might add to the Daniel Farke system. Spence does do very well getting forward. Not a great defender from a defensive perspective, but can do an awful lot going forward and has been promoted from this division before, which should be pointed out. Let's move on to the saga that has been Nadiem Amiri. This one has just gone back and forth and now looks like it's done and off the table completely. Yesterday it emerged that Amiri to Leeds was back on and he had travelled to Leeds for discussions around the structure of his personal terms. The personal terms were said to have already been agreed in as far as the fees and the salary and all that, but he was in Leeds yesterday. Sky Germany are reporting a failure to agree to finer details. What it states is that Amiri's initial reason for pulling out of the deal was he didn't want to play in the second tier of English football, and seeing how Leeds' season had started, he wasn't confident that would change. However, after the weekend's display from our front four specifically, he seemed much more keen on the deal. Flew into Leeds yesterday. There was talks all day yesterday around the deal for the player, and it has now emerged that the deal is off. Amiri wanted a clause put in his contract that if the Leeds didn't get promoted this season, that he could leave. He didn't want to spend more than 1 year in the Championship, which you can kind of understand from one point of view. But Daniel Farke has been very clear throughout the summer on this. There will be no more get out of jail free cards inserted into players' contracts. No more exit clauses, no more loans, no more permanent moves away from the club. You come here, you want to be here, you dig in and you fight for the club. Farke has been adamant on that. So as a result, the deal is off. The player has been videoed and shown on video this morning by Sky Sports Germany back in training with Leverkusen. I would say this deal is off unless he gets a better option between now and the end of the window. It could come back on the table towards the very end, but Leeds are said to have moved on to other targets. Let's move on and talk about the Glenn Kamara saga that's rattled on all summer long. According to Team Talk, this deal is now ready to be concluded. There was rumours of a flight into Leeds late last night from Glasgow. They say the deal is expected to pick up pace and that he will join Leeds ahead of Coventry and Middlesbrough, who are also said to be interested in the player. In Scotland, reports claim that personal terms have already been agreed on what will be a £5 million deal for Glenn Kamara to Leeds. I will believe this when I see it. I'm not saying it won't happen. It probably will. But it's gone on so long over the summer. We've heard medicals booked, deals agreed, personal terms agreed for over a month now. So it's either the longest medical in history or the medical was never booked and never took place. But this one has rumbled on. Move on. Let's talk about another deal that's been kind of rumbling on a little bit, and it's Joseph Paintsil to Leeds. This deal isn't completed and isn't off the table just yet, with reports saying that the deal is being stalled over an exit clause. So what this exit clause, basically not an exit clause, a loyalty clause. So basically if a player had negotiated a clause in his contract that stated that if he didn't look to leave the club and the club decided to sell him, he would be paid a loyalty bonus for seeing out his contract. What usually happens in this situation is the buying club will integrate that clause into the signing on fee for the player to make the deal a bit easier. Leeds have decided not to do that in this situation and have left it to Genk to sort out their clause that they inserted in the player's contract, which I completely understand why Leeds would do that. Genk are not likely to pay that and don't want to pay that clause, which means that the deal has essentially stalled for now. What it does say in the report is that Leeds are expected to try and push it for this move again, especially with the Amiri deal going off. Paintsil is not an out-and-out number 10. He's more of a wide player, and to me, honestly, looked like he was there as an option in case Sinistera left or Somerville left. But it said that Leeds may move again for this player. It's not off the table, but it has stalled. Talks are said to be ongoing between both sets. of parties. Anyone else exhausted yet? Because I am. This has been going on a bit, hasn't it? Right, let's get to the next one. AO Tanaka was said to be done, dusted, off, on again. This one's not been really clear. Reports coming out of Germany. Well, according to Bild in Germany, Leeds are closing in on the final bits of Tanaka, but it's not clear cut for a reason I'll get to in a second. The reports on the deal claim that Leeds are close to completing the deal for the Japanese international midfielder, of a deal to be reported in and around £2.3 million. Sounds great. They claim that the deal will be completed in the coming days. However, according to Rheinischer Post in Germany, they are now claiming that yesterday, while in training, Tanaka picked up a knee injury after a heavy clash with one of his teammates. They said the deal was said to be a done deal and in the home stretch, but Leeds are now waiting for further developments on the injury. Tanaka was seen to grab his knee immediately and was helped to the back and limped into the back. There's no details on whether it's a serious injury or just an impact injury, that, a stinger that could just hurt for a little bit and then be fine. But Leeds are said to be monitoring the situation to see what the developments are on the injury before they decide to close off this deal. But keep an eye on that one as well. That could move pretty quickly. Luke Thomas, another one that was mentioned yesterday as a potential left-back option for Leeds United. Well, according to Leicester Live, Manchester United have now entered the race for this player. That is on the back of Luke Shaw picking up an injury and being out for a shortened period of time for Manchester United. Yesterday, they said that Leeds were linked with the loan move for the player, but Shaw's injury now means that Manchester United are having a look at a player who has over 22 appearances in the Premier League for Leicester 2 years ago. Leicester last season, which is probably not a bad thing considering how Leicester played last season. He also has an FA Cup winners medal, having started an FA Cup final as well. But it's claimed by Leicester Live that Leeds are now claim that Leicester are reluctant to deal with Leeds, who they see as a championship rival, and may be more keen to deal with a Premiership club instead for the player. The player is said to be sitting back and waiting to see what develops between all of the clubs before he steps in and makes his decision on what's going to happen here. So that one again is hanging in the air, and we'll wait for a bit longer. Moving on, let's talk about a bid that was rejected last night. And according to Sky Sports, last night Leeds United had a £4 million offer rejected for Norwich central midfielder Kenny McLean. McLean, a 31-year-old midfielder who would know Daniel Farke very well, will be an experienced player to come into a midfield as well. Maybe a Leeds midfield that's lacking in a little bit of experience at the moment. Ampadu is not an old player; he's in his early mid-20s. Archie Gray there as well. I suppose it would depend on who else comes in that position. A lot of people saying yesterday Kenny McLean is done. He's 31 years of age and his career is over. They should have a look closer at the data on this. Kenny McLean has covered the most distance of any player in the Championship this season. The nearest player to him on 0.5 kilometres less is Ethan Ampadu at Leeds, so you can have a very high energy midfield with the two of them there as well. Deal is said to not have gone through. Norwich are trying to put their own squad together to make a push. They're building a team that looks like it will be competitive in the Championship this season as well, so won't be straightforward at all. Let's just finish up, wrapping up with the rumour mill, and the last bit on the rumour mill is Lewis O'Brien. The only move on this at the moment is basically said to be that Leeds are keen on a loan move with an option to buy for the player should they get promoted. Norwich want to recoup the £10 million that they paid for him for financial fair play reasons as well, and they look like they want that. There are other clubs involved in this and other clubs keeping an eye on this. Most clubs seem to favour a loan for Lewis O'Brien, but the closest gets to the end of the window, Norwich may have to offload him on loan, or he could go back to the States if the window closes. But I think the player himself is keen on a move to the Championship or lower end Premier League clubs here as well, so that one will be one to keep an eye on. And then finally, just to wrap up on youth call-ups, Jeremiah Mullen has been called up to the Scotland under-21 squad for their upcoming game against Spain. Leo Kjelde has been called up to the Norway under-21 squad for their for their international games against Latvia and San Marino. This has been a slog, this one, I'm not going to lie. Latvia and San Marino there as well. Leeds do have a game tonight against Salford, so that's one to keep an eye out as well, and who will play in that game, what Leeds players will take part in that game. A lot of work still to do at Leeds with only a couple of days left in this window. It's now Tuesday, Friday coming up very quickly, an 11 p.m. kickoff. We will be doing a live stream for the final hour of that as well. I think Leeds could be very much involved in that should they not get a lot of these deals done in the next 24-48 hours. But I'll be back then to talk to you about that, so we'll see what happens. This could also date very quickly, so there you go. See you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.